You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey listeners, let me let you in on a little secret. You don't have to stress about planning your class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions anymore. My school counseling membership program, Impact, is here to help. So, what do Impact members get? Monthly curriculum plans across all 3 tiers, SEL lessons, small groups, individual, and seasonal activities, step-by-step video implementation guides, bi-weekly Zoom coaching calls with me, and an exclusive Facebook group community. This membership is designed for school counselors who want to deliver the best possible content to their students, but who also want to just press the easy button. You'll get access to monthly curriculum plans, resources, support, and community so you can deliver quality, engaging, life-changing counseling lessons to your kiddos. So what do you think? Are you ready to make an impact? Join today at stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So today I want to share with you how you can get ready for back to school season by using a 30, 60, and 90-day plan. So I first heard of a 30, 60, 90-day plan from my husband. He was working, I think at like AT&T at the time or some, big business. And he was saying that they had to turn them in during interviews or something like that. I don't even really remember the context. But I had never thought about this in the education setting, although I think it's pretty common in like a general corporate setting. So I was like, ooh, this is fun. I kind of like coming up with a plan for the first 3 months just to break it down so things feel less overwhelming. So that's exactly what I did. So today I want to break it down for you and share with you what you can do during your first 30 and 60 and 90 days of school counseling. This is whether you're a new school counselor or maybe it's your 2nd year, maybe it's your 5th year. Take a listen. I hope something I say can help you. And be sure to go to the show notes for a freebie. I have a free 30, 60, 90-day checklist for you so you can download it and then follow along and check off everything. And I would love for you to tag me on social media on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling and show me pictures of your 30, 60, 90-day plan as you check off those boxes. I know it's super gratifying. All right, guys. So for this episode, I'm actually playing a training that I did. So for our Impact members, so remember Impact is my school counseling membership program. And for my members over the summer, we did a lot of cool things. We did that summer summit you probably heard me talk about back in June. And then in July, we did a series of summer workshops. So they got exclusive summer workshops and a summer challenge. That was a lot of fun. But the training on the 30, 60, 90-day plan was one of 3 workshops that they received that month. So I just wanted to pull the audio from that training to share it with you guys. This way you could also have access to the 30, 60, 90-day plan and how you could kind of get a sneak peek of what we're doing over there inside Impact. Okay, so let's check it out. So today I want to share with you all about a 30, 60, 90-day plan for when you go back to school. So those first 3 months are super important, and sometimes we feel overwhelmed. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Maybe you're a new counselor, or maybe you're coming back year after year, but it always feels a little dicey at the beginning. I'm here to help you figure this out. So I have for you a clear 30, 60, 90-day plan of what you can do to get started. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, so let's jump right in with the 30-day plan. So this is your first month of school. During the first 30 days, here's the checklist that I think you should consider. And this checklist is available for download. If you go to the download section, there's a PDF, so you can download your own copy and check them off as you do things. So I recommend that you conduct a needs assessment, and then that you meet with your admin and possibly the former counselor. Introduce yourself using a Meet the Counselor game. Attend or host a back-to-school night. Establish a referral process, map out classroom counseling lessons, and decorate your office. So it may seem like a lot, but don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it step by step. First up, conduct a needs assessment. Now, this might look familiar. This was actually a resource that we gave you guys in Impact in August 2021. So if you were an Impact member then you have access to this resource. If not, you can totally make your own, not too difficult. But what is a needs assessment? Well, a needs assessment is exactly what it sounds like. It's a great way to assess the needs for your student population. So if you're a first-year counselor or new to your school, then this is an absolute must-do right away. If you're returning to your school, you may find that you don't need to do one every year. In our first workshop, we were chatting about that a little bit, how you can do every other year or every couple years. But if you are new to the school or first-year counselor, I think this is 100% must do. So what you're going to do is you're going to send a few questions out to teachers and staff to assess student needs and to determine which topics that you'll then base your small groups and class lessons around. So you may, have a plan and think, oh, I want to do class lessons on conflict resolution. But then maybe based on your needs assessment, you see that's a really low need for your school, but something else like cyber safety is a really high need. So by asking these questions, you can figure out exactly what your school needs and how you can best serve them as their school counselor. And of course, I love to go paperless, so I recommend doing a digital version of this as well. Super simple, shoot the teachers an email, like, hey, I know you guys are busy, but if you have a few minutes, just fill out this needs assessment for me. Here's the link. And then it will gather all your results for you, so you're not sifting through a bunch of papers. But I like the paper version too. I have both, so pick which one you like best. Then I recommend that you meet with your new admin. Now, this is talking about mostly pertaining to first-year school counselors, or if you're at a new school. If you're returning to the same school, then you likely know who your admin is. Unless they're new, then perhaps you need to meet with them. But if it's the same principal and you're returning to the same school, then you maybe can skip this step. That being said, a lot of these strategies apply to all counselors, whether you're new or not. But if you are new, take the ownership and, be proactive and say, hey, I know you're busy this time of year, but I'd love to sit down and kind of talk about the counseling program. They're going to be stoked, right? They have this new school counselor who is eager and excited to get things going. And what you can do is you can discuss your expectations and role as the school counselor. Now, this is the point that I think is helpful no matter if you're a new or old counselor. Because if you're returning, maybe there are some things last year, some duties that you had to do that weren't exactly aligned with, your role as the school counselor. Now is the time to talk about that. So this is the time that you can sit down and say, hey, last year I was doing these things. I'd rather take them off my plate. Here's some data to back me up. Maybe you have that if you've been there the previous year. Here's, an ASCA infographic to show that these actually aren't the duties of the school counselor. Or if you're new, you don't want to step on any toes. You definitely want to be respectful and hear them out. But just kind of say like, hey, I'm really pumped. Here are my plans for the school year. These are things I'm going to be focusing my time on. And by showing them what you are going to focus on, you're showing them what you're not going to focus on. And what you're not focusing on are those non-counselor tasks that you're often assigned. But oftentimes you're assigned those because they think, oh, well, she doesn't have anything else to do. Let's give her this task. But if you show exactly your plan for the year, then you're good to go. You could even bring this 30, 60, 90-day plan to the meeting with you to serve as a discussion guide. I've got you covered. All right, and remember, it's never too early to start advocating for your position. So like I said, this is the time that you want to, be really clear on your plans and what you want to do as the school counselor. Now, also, if you're able to contact the previous counselor, if you're new to the position, that can be super beneficial. They can provide you with a wealth of information, about previous students, programs they implemented, and so on. But I do recommend that you take this with a grain of salt and get to know the students yourself rather than just based on their own, the previous counselor's experiences, right? So you want to make your own opinions and get to know everyone on your own. But it is really helpful information. So if you can contact them, that is great. Next up, introduce yourself using a Meet the Counselor game. So this may look familiar. This is a picture of Mission Meet the Counselor, my escape room style guidance lesson, which was one of our August 2021 resources inside Impact. I also gave you guys the Meet the Counselor game show then as well. But why should you do a Meet the Counselor lesson? Well, doing this does three things. First, it helps you advocate for your role as the school counselor. So again, it's clear what you do and what you don't do. So the kids need to learn this too. I like to have questions in there like, if I get hurt, I go to the school counselor. Like, no, you go to the nurse for that. But if someone hurts my feelings, I go to the school counselor. Yes. So just fun little ways for them to learn your role and exactly what you do. A lot of times the kids don't know who we are, We'll have those students that we see a lot, but then there may be some students who don't really access our services other than the class lessons, so they may not know what we can provide. So I think that's really important to share exactly what your role is. And it helps all the kids to get to know you in a fun, positive way. So you want to set a foundation here, building that rapport and getting to know them. So the first time they meet you isn't during a crisis, right? They already know who you are. You're a familiar face. You can share some fun facts about yourself. like on a personal level so they can get to know you. And then if they need to access you while they're having a crisis, it's going to be a little easier for them because they're like, oh, I know this lady. I remember when she came into my classroom. And lastly, it shows the students how the monthly counseling lessons will look. So you're coming in their class to do a lesson. This lesson's topic is Meet the Counselor, so you're covered for August, right? But then you can tell them, I'll be back next month with a different topic. Maybe share with them some potential topics you're going to talk about so they can get used to, the counselor's going to come into my classroom and teach a lesson every month. Here's a picture of that other one I was talking about, the game show. So like I said, make it fun. Use a game or an activity. That's a fun way for the students to get to know you. We don't want to appear, scary or intimidating. We want to appear accessible and helpful. So I like to do really fun activities. Or with the little guys, you could do like a Mr. Potato Head and kind of use analogies of like ears to listen, hands to help, eyes to see, things like that. And if you're new, I recommend that you introduce yourself and your role to all of the classes, of course. But if you're a returning counselor, you can choose who to introduce yourself to. So maybe you're just doing first year classes like kindergarten or sixth grade, whoever the new students are to you. And then if you didn't want to go in and do all the classes, you could find out who the new students to school are. So perhaps some students are like in third grade, but they're coming from another school, and maybe you could just pull them aside and do like a little group, meet the counselor, get to know you thing. Okay, next up in those first 30 days, attend or host a back to school night. Now, your school likely has one, but if not, you could consider hosting your own. But they're likely doing some kind of back to school night or open house. Set up a table, be visible, right? So what I like to do is set it up with some, I'm there, maybe have a few little treats or something, a little infographic on what the counselor does. I like to have a brochure on like who I am, and inside the brochure I'll put like a QR code so they can scan it to fill out digital referral forms. I'll also have with me some print and referral forms and permission slips. Now, that's really helpful because I've had parents come up and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know our school had a counselor. I need this. And on the spot, they'll fill out a referral and a permission. So talk about being efficient, right? You already have everything you need to start scheduling those services. So you can explain your program, the preventative services you'll be offering, and just introduce yourself to parents. Hey, this is who I am. This is how I help. A lot of times they also don't know that you're coming in the classrooms to do those monthly lessons. So talk about that preventative piece as well. And like I said, I totally recommend you bring those referral forms, permission slips, and brochure. That being said, you want to establish a referral process. I probably should have put this slide before, because before you can tell parents to refer to you, you need to have that referral process established. Now, this is a resource we had in September 2021. So if you were an Impact member then, it may look familiar. But basically, how we are establishing our caseload and figuring out which students we're going to see is based on referrals. So you're going to have parents, teachers, maybe even students themselves, administrators, your own observations. People say, hey, this kiddo needs counseling. And, maybe last year you heard that and you're like, oh, kiddo needs counseling. Okay, write their name down. But it's better if you have a formal referral process. So then you would say, okay, awesome, please fill out this referral form. Here's how you can access it. That way you have all the information you need. Now, you do want to make them accessible and easy to use. So I love to print out some at the beginning of the school year, give them to all the teachers just to keep in their classroom. So if they need one, they have it on file. They can simply fill it out, stick it in your box, or drop it off at your office. I also keep some in like where the boxes are, so they can always grab them there and fill them out, like in the break room, staff room, things like that. And then, of course, the digital version. You guys know I love this. So having like a QR code or a link on your website where parents can easily access the referral forms. We don't want people to, say, oh, my child needs counseling, but I don't know how to contact the counselor. That's like worst case scenario, right? We want to be accessible and easy to find. So things you want to include on there are the student's name, the teacher's name, area of need. So this is where they would type, you could have like a checkbox or other. So, grief, self-esteem, anger management, self-regulation, or other. Then you could even have like an open response section if you want them to type in a little bit about the background. And then the type of counseling preferred. So I do like to put on there, are you recommending them for individual or group? Now, you're the expert here, and you're going to determine if they're better fit for individual or group. But it's just kind of nice to see what the preference is. And then the severity level. So this is really important because if you're getting a lot of referrals at once, you want to make sure that you're seeing those high needs kids first. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, like how soon does this need to be addressed? And also for the student ones, you can get creative. If they're little guys, and you could even do a visual for this part. And you could have, I love like doing a weather symbol. So if it's rain, it's like a lower need, but if it's lightning, thunderstorm, then it's a higher need. Or no, I'm sorry, sunshine, lower need, rain, medium, thunder and lightning, a high need. So that's like a cool visual way for kids to indicate how important it is. But also take that with a grain of salt because everyone thinks their own thing is the most important. And obviously we want to see all of them. That just kind of helps us triage and rank the order in which to see them. Now I think you should have one for parents and teachers. That one can look the same. And then one for the student self-referrals like I mentioned. And like I said, I love going paperless for this as well using Google Forms. Next, you're going to map out your classroom counseling lessons. So in the picture here, this is a cooperation classroom lesson. This is an upcoming resource and impact, so get excited. But you're going to figure out if your school has a curriculum and what you're going to use to teach the lessons. So if you've been there in the past, maybe you're using the same curriculum, easy peasy. Maybe you want a new one. Ask your school to purchase you a new one, or find out what they've used in the past, or you might be making it DIY from scratch, which usually happens in my experience. But once you find out the curriculum, then you're going to determine how often you're going to be teaching the lessons. So find out, are you in the rotation, or do you need to schedule these on your own? Which topics are you going to cover? So you can use your needs assessment data to figure out which topics you're going to cover. When will you teach each topic? So make a rough plan like, okay, well, I want to do a bullying prevention lesson, and October's bullying prevention month. Perfect. So make a rough plan, but again, you want to wait on those needs assessment results if you don't have them yet. And then decorate your office. So this is the fun part of those first 30 days. You've probably already been thinking about it. If you're returning to your school, maybe you can think of ways to improve your office. If you are a first-year counselor, you're probably really excited to decorate your office. I know I was. Here's a picture of one of my offices. This is at the International School here in Costa Rica. I was so excited because I finally had a window and some natural light. It was actually a pretty big office too. And so anyways, we'll get more into this. We have our next workshop, number 3, that's all about fun and functional office decor. So I'll do a bigger deep dive on that. But, the work you do as a school counselor is so valuable. And while decorating your office obviously isn't the top priority, it is a fun, simple way that you can make students feel welcome and accepted. And we want to create this safe, welcoming space for them. So I do think it's important. And you're going to be spending so much time in there, so we want you to love it as well. All right, guys, that's what you should be doing in your first 30 days. Whew! Now let's move on to that second month, the 60-day plan. So in those 60 days, you're going to be establishing your counseling caseload, scheduling the class lessons, preparing data collection tools, planning your small group curriculum, and organizing school-wide activities. Now, establishing your counseling caseload. So here's an example of a caseload spreadsheet. That's how I like to keep mine organized. Again, you may recognize it. This was a December 2021 resource inside of Impact. And you want to create a proactive and preventative comprehensive school counseling program. So in addition to collecting referrals, you can try to do a few things to make sure that no kiddos slip through the cracks. So a few of those things are you can meet with your admin to discuss high-need students. Like, hey, let's just kind of get these students on our radar. We're anticipating we'll get referrals for them. Or maybe you're the one that needs to make the referral. Email teachers and ask directly which students they think would benefit from counseling. So maybe they're behind and they haven't had a chance to fill out the forms, but you could just say, hey, are there any students that you think would benefit from counseling? Please let me know. We'd love to make sure that they get referred and on our caseload. And then compile a check-in list of students who you saw last year. So I like to do this because I was so eager to see students, and then you're sitting there and you're kind of waiting on referrals to come in. Maybe you don't get any referrals for a few weeks. So what you can do that's proactive is say, okay, I saw these kids last year. I'm going to check in with them and see where they're at, see if they need continued services this year. Or if you even weren't the counselor, you could see who was seen last year and then make that call. Then schedule your class lessons. So we talked about doing, mapping out your general class lessons, but now it's time to schedule them. So this takes a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, but taking the time to do it up front helps you avoid the back and forth yo-yo of communicating like, when can I come in? Oh, is this a good time? Or can we reschedule to this? So it becomes a logistical nightmare if you do it that way. So it's better to plan them all at once. Now, this can be time consuming, like I said, to set up a teacher sign-up system, but it's way better than feeling stressed and crunched for time throughout the school year. So instead of each month trying to schedule the class lessons, I recommend scheduling them all up front at the beginning of the school year. And the reason is that you're likely seeing less students in August, so it's a good time to get your systems in place before those referrals start coming in. So a few tech tools I like to use for teacher signups. First up is Google Sheets. So you can just have a simple Google Sheet with available times and then share it with teachers, and they can fill in their ideal times. They can sign up each month, have tabs at the bottom, January, February, March, April, May, and they sign up for what day and time they want. Then you can go in and add those to your calendar. Now, another thing you can do is use your Google Calendar or Outlook or whatever your school uses to create an event for the class lessons. So after the teacher, indicates their ideal time, you can type it in there. And then I like to do a reoccurring. So if they said Tuesdays at 1 p.m. is their ideal time, then okay, the first Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. we're going to do your class lesson. Now, and you can send them an invitation through there as well, so then it appears on their calendar. They can get reminders. It's perfect. But you do want to kind of look ahead at your school schedule, your school calendar, and say, oh, okay, first Tuesdays of the month, great. Oh, this 1 week we're on spring break. This 1 week we'll be on Christmas break. And go ahead and reschedule for those things in advance. So this way it's not December and you're like, oh, shoot, I can't do that lesson. And then you get all crazy busy. And lastly, Calendly, that's what you'll see a picture of here. This is a free website that I love, love, love. It's where teachers can sign up for appointments with you. So you can create, one called Class Lessons, and then you'll have all the details, and they can pick the times, and then it automatically is added to your calendar. So this is great. You could have them go ahead and pick a time throughout the school year, or you could do this one month by month. Up to you. It's super user-friendly on both ends. You just put in the available times, so you can block off times that don't work for you, if you have groups or whatever. But hopefully you're doing your class lessons first, and then you're going to fill in your groups and then your individuals into everything else. So it syncs with your calendar. Like I said, it's just a really easy way. You could also have an opportunity to add like a Zoom link if you're doing virtual lessons, and then it has all the information there as well. Prepare data collection tools. So this is where you're going to figure out what data collection tools you're going to be using throughout the school year. If you guys watched our last quarterly training, I talked a lot about this, how you can collect data throughout the school year, and we kind of did a deep dive on these. But basically, you just want to determine how you'll be collecting pre- and post-counseling services data. This way you can measure your program's effectiveness, which you can later use to advocate for your position and to make sure your kiddos are getting the services they need. So I love behavior surveys and self-assessments. These have been in Impact Resources a lot. We had October and November of 2021, and February of this year, we have given you guys the behavior surveys and self-assessment sets 1 and 2. So you may already have these. If not, you can totally make your own. It's something I also like to do digitally as well. Then plan small group curriculum. So this is the fun part, right? So you're going to start getting those referrals, and then you're going to figure out which groups you're going to lead. So let's say you get a bunch of primary, kindergarten and first grade students referred for self-control. Well, then you can think, okay, I'm going to do a self-control small group. This helps you see multiple students at once, and then just being in the group is a great way to practice self-control as well, right? So you need to determine what you're going to do with these students. Are you going to see if you have curriculum available, ask your school to purchase curriculum, work with what you have, piecemeal some things together, or create your own curriculum? Now, as Impact members, you're lucky ducks because you get a small group curriculum every month inside Impact. So this one is a picture of Wiggle Worms. That's our self-control group for littles, and it was an April 2022 resource. So you may have that one already. So before you start seeing these small groups, you need to get a plan of what curriculum you're going to use, what kind of activities, and what you're going to do with them. And lastly, you want to organize those school-wide activities. So during this first 60 days, you want to think, okay, am I going to help organize any school-wide activities this year? These can be a lot of fun, but they do require some planning in advance. So you just kind of want to think like, okay, I want to do a bullying prevention fun run. Well, that's probably best done in October, Bullying Prevention Month. Or I want to do a career fair. So what time of year am I going to organize that? That's going to take some planning to contact some community resources. Or I want to do random acts of kindness. So when is the week for that? Or Red Ribbon Week, when is the week for that? Or Great Kindness Challenge. There's so many things. So decide which ones you want to do, compile a list of those topics, and then map it out on the calendar when those things are. Okay, now let's head into that third month, your 90-day plan. So this is month 3, and everything's kind of coming together. You've been doing a lot of prep and planning, and now you're finally implementing those services and analyzing the data. So you're going to be teaching classroom counseling lessons, facilitating small groups, meeting with individual students, conducting those pre-counseling self-assessments, and sending out behavior surveys. So classroom counseling lessons, earlier we were talking about identifying, what kind of curriculum you're going to use in the first 30 days, and then the first 60 days you're going to schedule them all out. Now it's time to start teaching the lessons. You've likely already done your Meet the Counselor lesson, but now we need to get in, the nitty-gritty and do those monthly lessons. The picture here is a self-control lesson I have. It is a sneak peek upcoming resource for impact. So what you want to do is you want to think about how you're going to teach your class lessons. You want to make sure you have a plan for your classroom management strategies. During our summer summit that we had last month, we had some presenters share on classroom management strategies. So definitely listen to those to make sure that you have a clear plan. And then this is when you're going to create those lessons, right? You want to figure out your topics and your lessons and actually get them all together. So you want to make them interactive and engaging and informative. So are you going to do, PowerPoint style lessons? Are you going to do like escape room style lessons? Are you going to kind of do a mix? Get your plan, because now it's time to teach them. And facilitate small groups. So you've already figured out what curriculum you're going to use. You've already got those referrals. And now it's time to actually start the group counseling, right? So this is my favorite part of the job. I love group counseling. But it's helpful if you have a plan always, right? So you want to figure out your group procedures. Are you going to do group rules, a sign-in sheet, your feelings check? Are you going to do weekly journals? Start making your outlines with objectives. The topic self-control each week. What are we going to do? What's the objective for that week? To name self-control coping strategies, to identify people who can help with self-control. And then here I have a picture. This is a resource that I created that was shared with you guys in Impact in March 2021. So it's kind of been a while, but this is a technology small group. So if you've been a member since then, you have access to this one as well. And then individual counseling, you're going to start those sessions as well. So like your small groups, after you've started receiving referrals and schedule the students, it's time for that boots on the ground intervention. So you want to have a plan for what you're going to do with your individual students. Be prepared, have those icebreakers, have your data collection tools ready. As Impact members, you're getting individual curriculum each and every month. You're getting the small group too and the class lesson each and every month as well. So I don't want you guys to feel like you have to create all this stuff, because as Impact members, you're already getting it, which is so exciting. So you get access to, your class lesson, your small group, and your individual counseling sessions every month. This one here is from Trauma, and this was one of our March 2022 resources. So if you remember then, you have access to this individual curriculum as well. And then conduct those pre-counseling self-assessments. So remember, self-assessments are a simple way to measure your program's effectiveness. At the beginning of each group or individual session, which is now, you're just now starting everything, you want to send these out so the students can, go ahead and assess. It's like their pre-test on what they know based on the objectives that you're going to teach them, and then they'll do the post-test at the end of the group or the end of the individual sessions during the last session. So you'll have them fill out the exact same one, but you want to be sure to grab the date so you can compare the differences. Then you can see how progress has been made. Again, something I love to do digitally, because when you click that responses tab, it's really easy to see all the data there, time-stamped. Now, these I've shared in October and February, the different self-assessment bundles, or you could easily create your own. And behavior surveys. So the other data collection tool that I love to use are behavior surveys. So you want to send these to parents and teachers now, so before the services have started or at the start of services. And then just like the self-assessments, you're going to send them again when services have ended and compare and contrast the results. It's also interesting to compare these to the student results, and among each other. So how is the teacher's opinion different than the parents, which is different than the student? So it's really interesting to see that data there. You could also send these mid-services to make sure that your counseling methods are on the right track. And then you'll use the feedback to adjust and tweak your program to best serve your students' needs, which is what we're always trying to do, right? So these were November 2021 resources, so you may have access to these as well. Okay, guys, whew, that was a lot, but I hope you feel so ready. Don't stress. That may have seemed like a lot just for this little 30-minute video, but I'm talking about 3 months. So now that you have a 3-month plan to get started, you can stress less and focus on helping as many students as possible. So you've got this. I think I love to use the 30, 60, 90-day plan because instead of wasting time sitting down like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Now you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you just go through the checklist one by one. So be sure to download that checklist PDF as well. All right, I hope you found that training super helpful. Again, please don't forget to download your freebie of that 30, 60, 90-day plan. The link will be there for you in the show notes. And like I said, this was a training we did exclusive for our Impact members. It was one of many things that they get for being Impact members. So if you're interested in that, you can always go over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to find out more. Okay, talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.